there have been significant proffers about Mr. Williams being a danger to the community, in particular, to taking proffers from other gang members and people who are in this particular indictment and they're not in this indictment, that he is the leader of the gang, he is dangerous, and if he crosses them, he'll kill them or their families.
In paying cops to make sure Thug or whoever else doesn't break his bond, the judge has ruled that he's a danger to the witnesses in the case, and that might be coming from the other YSL members. They want to cut a deal, and they don't want Thug out on the streets. If you get him out on bond and he makes a bunch of music, and then he still gets convicted, well, that's great publicity. So now the record label would have all these songs. You don't even need to do a PR campaign, because free Young Thug, that's the PR campaign, and money will be made off of this either way, but they need to get Thug out of jail to make some more songs.
And for the life of me, I don't understand why I have to testify the good that hip-hop has done around the world. I've also started a company with Jeffrey called Young Stoner Life. And I remember what he said to me: we're not just starting a company, we're going to change some lives. And that's what he's done. And he's definitely changed mine.
Quite a performance from Kevin Liles as he attempts to keep one of his big money makers from going away. Now, what's pretty interesting in these big cases is, a lot of times they're won and lost, not on the merits of the case, but in the maneuvering beforehand about how the case is going to be framed, how the public perceives it, and who you get put on a jury. So that was Kevin Liles, talking, I don't know what, him implying he has to defend hip-hop. I mean, YSL is not on being charged with something because they're rappers. I mean, they're charged with specific crimes. And, but it's interesting, probably they had a strategic meeting and they're trying to make it seem like, it's just the system out to get rappers or something. Social background of Atlanta, it probably has a lot to do with what's going on. I mean, Atlanta's a complicated city with different layers of people. I mean, despite being, a mecca for black people, there's a lot of racist elements to, in downtown Atlanta, the place where Dirk and Vaughn got their case for supposedly shooting a guy, Victory or Varsity Hamburgers. If you go in Varsity Hamburgers, it's all old black men, and they call all the people that come in there sir and boss, even little 12-year-old boys, would you like a soda, boss? Some people are saying this prosecutor is getting ready to try to charge Trump with the RICO down there. That may be true, but there's a big component of the black population that is the system down there. These are the people that went to the HBCUs and work for big corporations or are part of the political landscape of Atlanta. They don't want the poverty people of Atlanta, the people from the places where Young Thug and et cetera is from. They don't want them to be the face of Atlanta. And, there's a lot of, it's interesting to see here now how they're prepping the case and battling it out for what's going to go on.
I pose a significant risk of fleeing, threatening the community, committing another crime, or intimidating witnesses.
As you see, the judge denied bond for Thug, and as implied, the prosecution is saying there's a bunch of YSL members who have made proffer deals. So proffer is like where you say, you don't really make a deal yet. You say, what if I were to make a deal and tell you, say who killed who or who gave this or that order, what would I get out of it? So the judge and the prosecution are implying that multiple of these YSL members will testify and give information specific to Young Thug's involvement in serious crimes. Now, of course, that could just be them trying to get out of trouble, or it could be true. Who knows? The case has to be tried on its own merits. But the very people that you look out for the most are often your downfall. And if Young Thug, does ever get convicted of anything serious, it'll be due to people, at least on one hand, that he looked out for. Now, if I look out for you on Tuesday, but then I have you commit a crime on Wednesday, am I really looking out for you? Not really, but maybe that's not the case. So again, these proffers are implying that there's YSL people that are going to say Young Thug knew what was going on with a lot of these crimes and that he was ordering them. Of course, as I talked about in other videos, supposedly they got him on a tapped phone, given the okay on stabbing YFN Lucci. Then there's this, what's going on with this Yak Gotti and YSL Duke. So the story with that is that Yak Gotti is accused of being one of the people in the car when the Donovan Big Nut guy, who Young Thug called one of the biggest bloods in America, who was YFN Lucci's kind of entree into the music business. Yak Gotti was supposedly in the car that Young Thug supposedly rented when Big Nut was gunned down in Southwest Atlanta some years ago. But then there was another time when Gotti and Duke got caught in a car with some guns. Now, and people are saying Gotti snitched because he said in a statement that they were they were his guns. He supplied the guns and they were on the way to shoot something up. But Gotti's defense against snitching in the public eye is that, oh, nobody went to jail for it, so how was it snitching? Well, that's one of those things that's kind of a false logic. Like, it sounds true unless you think about it. Like, a lot of people try to tell just because they didn't use it, or, in this case, the information he supposedly provided, well, it's being used at a later date. Now it's being used as part of this RICO. And Gotti served 4 years in prison for the weapons charges, and the YSL Duke guy didn't at the time, but now YSL Duke's in the indictment, and probably Gotti's statements are going to be used as part of creating this whole picture of this ongoing criminal conspiracy. Young Thug's bond was denied, and as part of the discussion or battle about whether he was going to get his bond or not, and it's all about the money. Always all about the money. Part of Thug's defense team's assertion of why he should be let out on bond is because, well, he'll pay, well, they estimated it would be, over $1 million in police overtime to sit outside of his house and make sure he didn't leave and do and commit any crimes and adhered to his bond. So they're saying, if you let him out on bond, we'll pay police officers to sit outside his house to follow him around to make sure he doesn't break the law. And they're saying, well, that's going to put money into the pockets of Atlanta cops. So, all about the money. So how can we make, how can some cops earn overtime? That's what a lot of these, the crimes are real. Somebody killed those people and etc. So, but was it Young Thug or, but the fact that when you have a rich person charged, you can make money off of him by having him pay for law enforcement. I mean, that's kind of interesting, And ultimately, Young Thug's bond was denied, and the main reason was saying that people are afraid of Young Thug. And Young Thug probably narrowly avoided getting charged when Lil Wayne's tour bus got shot up. That Roscoe guy, Pee Wee Roscoe, took the fall, and he did some time for it, and then he got it broken down on appeal, and he got out early, and people were thinking Birdman was going to get charged back when that happened, because there was a call from Pee Wee Roscoe to Birdman on the jail phone where Birdman says, yeah, it's time for you to come get some of this money. Now, that type of statement could be incriminating, could not be incriminating. It could just mean, hey, once you get out of this trouble, come do your rap career and get some money. Or it could be meant to imply a payoff for what happened. Obviously, law enforcement couldn't prove that it was a payoff, because they would have gladly charged Birdman. But if you're Pee Wee Roscoe and they say you were expecting a financial reward for those 5-6 years you did in prison, just as you get out, because he just got out a year ago, now now there's an indictment. The people that were going to give you money are locked up, and Pee Wee Roscoe is charged. He's put into this RICO back for the same charge he already beat. So if he was expecting a reward, well, he's not going to get it. He'd be the type of guy that you could see sitting in his jail cell and deciding, damn, I'm never going to get the benefit of what I even did. So, I could see him in his head coming up with the justification for telling the story, whether it's true or not. YSL Duke, a lot of these guys, when you look around and see other people in the case that are making mistakes that got you in trouble, it makes it all the more easier to justify to yourself why you should give some information. So somebody is offering to talk. That's what these proffers are, and the judge finally decided that Thug is dangerous if he's out, because people will be afraid of him. And one of those kids didn't help his cause any. Mender, Quintavious Mender, I think his name is. So there's a kid in the case named Quintavious Mender or something that's charged in a RICO, and his little 18-year-old brother, Quartavious Mender, went on Facebook and said, if you don't free Thug, I'm going to kill you. And he said that to a Georgia sheriff, like the Fulton County sheriff or something. So now he's in jail. And, but I can tell you from experience, like, people can get you in trouble playing, gangster and giving out threats that you don't know anything about. I was once in a jail cell, and police came in and were like, oh, who do you think you are, Al Capone? And I was like, what are you talking about? And somebody threatened somebody that was a witness in the case to not come to court, and you can rest assured I did not have any idea that was going on. I did not tell anybody to do that or ask anybody to do that. That no way did Young Thug tell that kid to do that. I mean, that's retarded. So, people that are living out their own gangster fantasies might get you in more trouble. Maybe Young Thug's a victim of that, because he sure is with that Mender kid, because that made him look very bad. So Mender's in court or in jail now too. His brother's RICO case was not helped out. I mean, it couldn't be any adults anywhere with any type of say-so over an 18-year-old that thinks he can go on Facebook and make those type of threats. A girl, one of my female friends, when Facebook first, well, not first was getting popular, but probably like 8 or 9 years ago, her female friend, something happened, police killed somebody on, and it was on the big national stories. She got on Facebook in Atlanta, we should kill white cops. They kicked her door in within an hour and took her to jail. So, I don't know what people think when they go on social media and make specific. It's one thing to say, oh, the system is corrupt and we should revolutionize or something, but when you start getting specific, I'm going to shoot and kill XYZ cop or law enforcement, that just makes a bad situation worse. And there was somebody in the RICO case that got caught on the cell phone again, trying to get somebody on the outs to destroy evidence. That was presented in the court proceedings. So lots of money are at stake in this case if they can get Young Thug out on bond. From the perspective of Kevin Liles and the record labels, if you can get him out on bond, of course he can record a bunch of music, even if he didn't. Here's what's really sick. And I'm not saying this is going on, but if you get him out on bond and he makes a bunch of music and then he still gets convicted, well, that's great publicity. So now the record label would have all these songs. You don't even need to do a PR campaign because free Young Thug, that's the PR campaign, and money will be made off of this either way, but they need to get Thug out of jail to make some more songs. But his bond isn't looking good when you have things like the Mender kid threatening the sheriff. Yet Gotti's statements from in the past that didn't seem to cause a problem then are causing a problem now for YSL Duke. Supposedly multiple members of in this RICO are offering to do deals, despite the fact that Young Thugs and Kevin Lyle is willing to spend millions of dollars in paying cops to make sure Thug or whoever else doesn't break his bond. The judge has ruled that he's a danger to the witnesses in the case, and that might be coming from the other YSL members. They want to cut a deal, and they don't want Thug out on the streets to do anything about it.
And for the life of me, I don't understand why I have to testify the good that hip-hop has done around the world. I've also started a company with Jeffrey called Young Stone Life. And I remember what he said to me. We're not just starting a company, we're going to change some lives. And that's what he's done. And he's definitely changed mine.
I would imagine there's been so many cell phone things from jail already introduced, that I hope they don't try to get anybody to do anything else on any of those phones. Hopefully they learn their lesson, but it must be hard to go from, overseeing even just a record label, and maybe something else, but at the least, and living the life he was living, to just sitting in a cell, and the temptation to hop on the phone and tell people to do stuff has got to be strong. Gonna probably be able to slide out of this not too bad, but then of course there's the whole Crime Stoppers thing with Gunna, where people pick and choose who they want to call a snitch and informant, and when everything is going good, people look the other way. Gunna seems to have gotten a pass, but it's so many people that walking around and involved in all kind of stuff that have told on things that's why people pick and choose who they want to enforce the rules on, because they don't want people looking at them too closely. So, per what the prosecution is talking about, there's already people in the RICO trying to make deals, and they include Young Thug, and Young Thug has been deemed too dangerous to let out on bond, despite the fact that I'm sure Kevin Liles and the rest would love him to be on bond, because he can make some songs and they can make a whole lot of money whether he goes away or not. Matter of fact, if he got locked up, they'd probably even make more money. So that's the latest. And watch what's going on in these big cases in the very beginning where they're setting the stage for what's going to happen later. Because it's kind of like a football game, you know. The victory is won in on the practice field and in what players are going to play and all that. By the time you even get to the game, probably it's already over. So it's hard to imagine is there any big, you know, there hasn't been a rapper, like a real famous rapper at the top given a long sentence, but right here in LA, you know, you had one of the biggest music people ever, Phil Spector, who was like the white Quincy Jones. I mean, he produced so many platinum, diamond, iconic songs. And Phil Spector was a weird, rich guy living here in LA, and he liked to point guns at people, and he had gotten away with it his whole life. And he took some waitress home, this was maybe 10 years ago, and he had put a gun in her mouth playing around, and it went off, and they sent Phil Spector, who made more money than Young Thug, and was a bigger deal than Young Thug, and, you know, he was white, and they sent him to prison for a long time, so it can happen. So we'll see what all these offers of cooperation eventually lead to. If this early in the case people are already talking about talking, it's not good, but we'll see. So as of now, Young Thug now out on bond, deemed a threat to the community. This Mender kid whose brother's in the RICO made a threat on Facebook about if you don't let Thug out, I'm going to kill you, and they put him in jail too. So, Al Prophet, American Dope.